Hi, I'm Scott Wrighton. I serve as Decatur City Manager, and it's our pleasure, along with the production staff, to bring you this video every week about information not only that comes out of City Hall and out of city government, but also that might be important to you about any other governmental activities here in the Decatur and Macon County area. I want to cover three smaller, shorter items before I get into two larger topics today. The first has to do with our transit system. Since pandemic, we've been operating the buses without any fares. That's as a safety measure for our drivers and to maintain social distancing, and that's why people have entered and exited the buses from the rear doors. But beginning July 25th, we're reinstituting fares, the same fares that we had prior to pandemic, so they're not being adjusted for inflation. But I want to explain a little bit about why we have reinstituted the fares. The first reason is because our federal and state grant monies that actually fund the lion's share of the transit system. We receive these amounts not in a flat amount every year, but based on two key formulas. The first is how many people are riding the bus. The more people that ride the bus, the more funds that we get. And surprisingly, not having fares has not really made a big increase in or had a big impact on the ridership. The second key factor that state and federal government uses in deciding how much money to give to Decatur for our transit is the amount of money we raise from non-grant revenue, fares, advertising, other sorts of revenue that we generate locally. Almost to the point of saying that for every dollar of fare revenue and other non-grant revenue, we get $3 in grant revenue. So that's important for us for the long-term financial sustainability of the bus system. So that's why beginning on July 25th, those fares will be resuming. At the last City Council meeting, a couple of key infrastructure projects or capital improvement projects that the City Council moved forward with have to do with our water system. We're going to be making improvements at the treatment plant. You perhaps have already seen that if you go down south on Martin Luther King there by the lake, that big crane that's up there building new clarifiers. We're also building new chemical feed systems and other electrical components of the water treatment plant so that we can continue for the next generation to make sure that we have good quality drinking water for the city of Decatur, also improve some of our pumping systems out in the distribution system. So the City Council is moving forward with that. It's also moving forward with some work on some well fields that we have up in DeWitt County over the Mahomet Aquifer, where we can increase the amount of water that we get from the Mahomet Aquifer, significantly increase it, and then that water, because it's pumped out at that location, finds its way into Lake Decatur to augment the amount of water that we have available for our system. Also, I want to mention that this week, the Il Municipal League, an association of more than 1,200 municipalities here in Illinois that work for the betterment of cities throughout the state of Illinois, is having their meetings here in here in Decatur. And the reason that they're meeting in Decatur is because this year's president of the Illinois Municipal League is our mayor, Julie Moore-Wolf. And so we're hosting those folks, and we have mayors and other city representatives, people who work with local governments throughout the state of Illinois, coming to Decatur today, tomorrow, Friday, for meetings, and so we're showing off Decatur. The last two City Council meetings, even though it hasn't been on the agenda at all, have included lots of citizens coming to express their opinion about a project proposed by the Decatur School District for potentially building a new elementary school to replace Dennis and to replace Mary French, but do so in Lincoln Park. This is not a city proposal. It's really a matter between the Park District and the school district, because the Park District currently owns that land, and any decision to sell that land would rest with the Park Board. But I think the people who came to City Council meetings twice now to talk about it understood that the city was not actually a party to any of those transactions. But because we are the city, they decided to use City Council as a forum for expressing some of their concerns about it. And we appreciate that. We appreciate that input. It's valuable, even though the city doesn't make very many decisions about anything having to do with this. In fact, the site is not one that is zoned by the city. I mean, it is zoned by the city, but no zoning change is required to accommodate the school. The city is not required by law to approve their site plan. Building inspections are actually handled by the State Board of Education rather than our building inspection staff. And as long as they pay for all the infrastructure, there's nothing there for the city to approve. The only thing that is related to the site development that potentially the city council could weigh in on, and I'm sure would be anxious to do so to protect residents, is the opening or closing of city streets. That decision always rests with the mayor and city council. And none of those proposals have come to the city. The city staff was asked by the school district early in their planning processes to give some inputs, not any kind of recommendations. We made no recommendations about any kind of site, but they would have questions about the plat or about water and sewer lines or other infrastructure at some of the several different sites that they considered. We gave them their feedback. They didn't ask us for our recommendations. We didn't make recommendations. We simply provided information to them about what some of the development obstacles might be on several different sites. So like most of the population, we await the school district's decision on that. And I bring it up only because it did occupy a large amount of time on our city council agendas. And like I said, the mayor and council appreciate having that feedback. But I wanted to clarify, sort of from a governmental process standpoint, what the city is engaged in and what it's not engaged in with regard to this decision. Finally, I want to talk a little bit about the ambulance services here in Decatur. I think it's been fairly public information that Decatur Ambulance Service, which is owned by HSHS St. Mary's, is going to be going out of business. Basically, HSHS has decided that they don't want to be in that business anymore. We're appreciative of HSHS in the sense that they have made a commitment to try to maintain DAS while we go through the process of getting other ambulance companies licensed. So we're all committed, everybody in this process, to making sure that there's not an interruption of service, not just for people in Decatur, but also for the entire greater Macon County area that DAS has served. The way that we're doing that is we have submitted requests for applications from ambulance companies that service Central Illinois to submit an application saying we want a license. The license is issued by the city to provide ambulance services under certain terms and conditions, and we have made those as broad as possible so that we can attract the largest number of ambulance companies that might have an interest in expanding their existing operations into Decatur. Now, operating an ambulance service is no simple matter. It requires expensive equipment, it requires ramping up and scaling up a workforce, and it's heavily regulated by the state through the Illinois EMS Act. And so this isn't something that any small company that might have a vehicle can do. And so there's a limited number of companies that are in a position to do this. And we've had a reasonable amount of interest from several companies, and we're now at the point where we're starting to discuss those who have indicated a serious desire, either through our negotiations with them or the fact that they've actually submitted applications. We've expanded our ambulance working group to include public safety responders that are outside Decatur as well in the greater Macon County area, because DAS has serviced areas outside the city as well as inside the city, and we think that that's a good model, both financially and from a service standpoint, to continue that so that ambulance services are provided pretty uniformly throughout Macon County, regardless of which municipality you're in, or even if you're in unincorporated Macon County. I suspect that in the next several weeks we will get closer to deciding which combination of applicants makes the best sense and provides the best services and is the best enhancement to public health and welfare in Decatur. And then we'll be issuing some licenses based on that. So this is very much a work in progress, but I look forward to bringing you information about it at future videos, so stay tuned. Thanks for tuning into this video, and I look forward to talking to you next week.